Evolution is a magnificent story written over billions of years, a continuous narrative of survival, adaptation, and the relentless push of life. But what if there is a hidden, underlying chapter to this story that we are only just beginning to read? For centuries, we have looked primarily at the macroscopic world to understand the origins of life's incredible diversity. We observe the environment, the shifting climates, and the physical traits of the flora and fauna around us. Yet, every now and then, a radically new scientific idea comes along that completely tangles our conventional understanding, forcing us to look at the fabric of reality from an entirely different perspective. At the end of my journey exploring the natural world, I want to take these emerging ideas to their logical, if somewhat mind-bending conclusion. As a scientist, I must ground speculation in rigorous experimentation. Therefore, I want to construct a thought experiment and look at real empirical data that helps us answer one of the most profound biological questions of our time. Does quantum mechanics play a direct role in the very engine of evolution itself? To understand this, we must first look back. In 1859, Charles Darwin published his groundbreaking theory of evolution by natural selection, forever changing how we view our place in the natural order. Darwin elegantly explained the physiological and behavioral differences between humans and our closest primate relatives, suggesting a shared ancestry shaped by the environment. He observed how specific traits allowed certain individuals to manipulate their environment more effectively, securing resources and ensuring the survival of their lineage. Through gradual changes over countless generations, these advantageous traits were passed down, building the complex, intelligent behaviors we see in the animal kingdom today. More than a century and a half later, there is absolutely no doubt that Darwin's fundamental theory applies to every single living organism on this planet, from the deepest ocean trenches to the highest peaks. Whether it is a crustacean developing specialized claws to crack open armored prey or to defend its territory in a hostile underwater landscape. Or a gelatinous organism evolving bioluminescence to communicate, attract prey, or deter predators in the pitch-black depths of the sea. The rules of natural selection are universal. However, while Darwin brilliantly explained the macromechanics of survival, the deeper micromechanics, the exact source of the random variations that drive this process remained a mystery shrouded in darkness. I want to shine a light on that darkness. I want to explore the most cutting-edge, modern explanations for how these crucial evolutionary variations actually originate at the fundamental level of reality. Could it be that the answers lie not just in biology or chemistry, but in the strange, counterintuitive laws of physics that govern the subatomic realm? Can we illuminate the biological world using the precise and often bizarre rules of the quantum universe? To put it simply, is it possible that there is a deeply rooted quantum theory of evolution, one that dictates the very blueprint of life from the bottom up? To investigate this, we have to scale our perspective all the way down, looking past the obvious macrostructures to find the hidden mechanisms at play. We must look for anomalies, for processes that classical physics and traditional biology struggle to fully explain on their own. Can quantum evolution finally explain how a specific, complex trait appears seemingly out of nowhere, giving an organism exactly what it needs to survive? Consider a tiny, seemingly insignificant microhabitat, a simple plant stem, a micro-jungle where life and death struggles play out every single day. The tree frogs that inhabit these environments possess a remarkable evolutionary adaptation. Notice the intricate, dark stripes running along its vibrant green body. But within the exact same species, occupying the exact same habitat, we can find variations. Here, we see a frog with a completely solid green coloration, lacking the distinctive stripes. Both variations exist side by side. The striped pattern is an incredible piece of natural engineering, designed to break up the frog's silhouette against the shadows of leaves and stems. This phenomenon is known as polymorphism. The genetic code allows for these distinct visual variations to occur within a single breeding population. But how does that complex, highly specific striped pattern actually form in the DNA? How does a solid green lineage suddenly produce a striped offspring, or vice versa? To understand the stakes of this genetic lottery, we must look at the unforgiving nature of their environment. Out here, on the exposed edges of the wild, there is no room for error. Predators, particularly sharp-sighted birds, are constantly scanning the foliage, looking for any anomaly, any shape that breaks the natural pattern of the vegetation. If a frog's camouflage fails to match its specific resting place perfectly, it becomes a highly visible target in an otherwise empty landscape. When we examine the ground beneath these hunting perches, the brutal reality of Darwinian natural selection becomes starkly evident. By carefully sifting through the remnants left behind by these aerial predators, we can reconstruct the genetic winners and losers of this particular environment. Here, the striped tree frog is the undisputed master of disguise. Its lines perfectly mimic the shadows of the tall grass, rendering it virtually invisible to the naked eye. Because of this perfect camouflage, the striped variations are far less likely to be spotted, caught, and eaten. They survive long enough to pass their striped genes to the next generation. But look at what we find in the predator's wake. The remains scattered here belong almost exclusively to the solid green frogs. Without the disruptive stripes, they stood out against the varied background. Darwin's theory perfectly explains why the striped frogs dominate this specific area, but it does not explain the mechanical origin of the genetic diversity that created the stripes in the first place. To find the root cause of these random variations, the true engine of evolution, we must leave the wilderness behind and enter the controlled environment of the molecular laboratory. We need to zoom in 1 billion times closer, looking deep inside the nucleus of the cell to observe the very molecules that write the code of life. Here we find the most famous molecule in all of science, deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, the beautiful, twisting double helix that contains the blueprint for every living thing. It is a fascinating historical footnote that Darwin himself had absolutely no idea about the existence of DNA, nor the mechanical nature of how traits were inherited. It wasn't until 1953 that Watson and Crick revealed this structure. The magic of DNA lies in its internal rungs, the 4 chemical bases that pair up like pieces of a biological puzzle. These chemical bases are incredibly specific in how they connect. Adenine always pairs with thymine, and cytosine always pairs with guanine. It is a perfect, complementary molecular fit. When a cell divides, this zipper unzips. Each half becomes a template for a new, identical strand. This is how the genetic code is faithfully copied from generation to generation. But occasionally, the replication process makes a mistake. A piece of the puzzle is inserted incorrectly. This single tiny molecular error is what we call a genetic mutation. These mutations are the ultimate source of all genetic variation. They are the reason a solid green frog suddenly produces a striped offspring. But what causes the puzzle piece to mismatch? This is where classical chemistry fails us, and where the bizarre world of quantum mechanics steps in. The 2 halves of the DNA rung are held together by protons' hydrogen bonds. In classical physics, a proton needs a specific amount of energy to break its bond and move. It's like throwing a ball at a solid wall. Without enough energy, it simply bounces back. But in the quantum world, particles act like waves. There is a tiny probability that the proton doesn't bounce off the wall, but instead tunnels directly through it, spontaneously jumping to the wrong side of the DNA strand. If the DNA strands separate while that proton is in the wrong position, the code is permanently altered. A quantum tunneling event has just created a biological mutation. To prove this isn't just theoretical math, scientists are currently running experiments on rapidly mutating bacteria, altering the weight of their hydrogen bonds using heavy water. If these experiments continue to hold true, it means the incredible diversity of life on Earth, including our camouflage tree frogs, is driven, at its very core, by the weird and wonderful laws of quantum physics.